Hello, and welcome to the Oregon Files podcast. Today, a very exciting episode. We are live in person at Shanti's restaurant here in Roseburg, Oregon. Is it Shanti's restaurant? Or
Shanti's.
Shanti's. I've been pronouncing it wrong this whole time.
Everybody does. They call it a sea shanty.
Wow.
Not a sea. Oh, and that's a tongue twister too.
That's
a sea shanty. A sea shanty.
Well, as normal, our disclosure, we are novice podcasters, simply entertainment and knowledge. If we misquote or offend, it was not on purpose to do so. But today we have a great interview lined up. And my co-host, Elliot Bowman.
Thank you, Mark. Good way to start the month, February, on location. Second time on location with a restaurant, which is a good spot to be at. If you want to get a hold of the show, you can email us at OregonFilesPodcast@yahoo.com. We're on Instagram. You can message us through our website too, which is www.theoregonfilespodcast.com. Feel free to point out our mistakes and call us whatever you want, because we try to fact check ourselves and do the best job we can. So we appreciate all the feedback and everything. But today we got an awesome interview. Instead of Mark and I just rambling on about episodes, we get to interview somebody amazing today here at Shanti's.
Shanti's, yes.
Shobana.
Welcome, and thank you so much for your time today. I'm sure you're super busy with the restaurant today. And if you wouldn't mind, maybe telling us a little about yourself. Did you grow up in this area?
Yeah, in the sense that we've been here for about 12 years, but I've always had family here. So we've been going back and forth for a bit. And I grew up mostly in Washington, was born in California. So we kind of moved around Pacific Northwest, essentially. And came here just to be with family about 12-ish years ago. And have been in Roseburg and loving it ever since. I'm one of the odd people who really love Roseburg because I love hiking. I love nature. I love the peace that comes along with it. So yes, that is me.
I don't think that's odd. I think there's
no, but I meet a lot of people here are like, what made you come to Roseburg of all places? And I'm like, this is a wonderful town and I'm thankful to be here.
That's fine. Mark and I get that. We weren't both born and raised too in Roseburg. So I feel like that's kind of a lot of questions we get too. How'd you end up in Roseburg? And there's always a backstory to that.
Yeah.
So did you grow up in a home where there was a lot of cooking going on and like a family kind of atmosphere where somebody was in the kitchen and cooking every night, sort of?
Oh, 100%. My earliest memory of cooking is with my mom. I don't know how old I must be, but I just remember standing on a stool on the stove and I'm just stirring a pot of something. And I just remember her saying be careful, don't burn yourself. And I end up spilling this liquid all over my foot. Oh. So I remember the pain of that because I remember having to go to the emergency room, go to the doctor, and they're deep reading my foot, which is basically picking up the burn. So a bit macabre for the podcast, but that's my earliest memory. It's my earliest memory of cooking, but it didn't stop me at all because mom and dad both, funny enough, so both mom and dad are Indian. And Dad was the one who cooked American food in the house. So he would be like, let's not have Indian cooking today. Let's make French fries or let's make a pizza. And mom would be the one doing all the traditional Indian cooking. But both of them, I got my love of cooking from both of them. And that's essentially it, where we kind of got our start. All of us have been really passionate about cooking since we were as far as I can remember.
Yeah. Were there nights where you were the two kind of were made in the same night, like American food and the Indian food?
Oh, for sure. Even today, last night I whipped up some noodles and stuff like that. And then mom at the restaurant, she had made some Indian food. So we kind of all shared it here together.
Yeah. That's awesome. Did you have a favorite dish growing up? Is there a dish that you eat today that kind of reminds you of your childhood?
Khichdi, for sure. It's not something you'll hear in a restaurant scene or something like that, but it is just that comforting stew. It's almost like a congee, if you've ever heard of that, where it's a rice that's kind of creamed together, but this is with lentils, and you have all the spices, all of the warming spices and everything. So it's just a very hearty, comforting stew, essentially. And you eat that often when you're sick or ill, or even just in cold weather.
Yeah.
And so that's one of my things that just throws me right back into childhood.
Yeah. Did you have friends growing up that would come over to your house just to try cuisine from your home?
Growing up, no. It wasn't I think we didn't have a lot of social media or things like that at all where people would actually be intrigued to try Indian food. When I did have friends that come over that did, they really enjoyed it, but not somebody that came over specifically to try Indian food because it was a thing that was, especially in growing up, middle school, high school, kind of to be made fun of, like, oh, this is Indian food. Like, oh, it smells so bad. Like, what are you doing? Or something like that. So just time has allowed it to come more into light, I feel.
Right. So did your parents have a restaurant when you were growing up, or when did they first open up a restaurant?
So we didn't even think we would be here at all. So growing up, my mom was a child development teacher. She has her master's in child development. She did that her entire life. She was a principal in India. So just a school teacher her entire life. And dad kind of just worked outside the home, doing whatever he could and all that kind of stuff. And we come to Roseburg. Mom has always loved to cook. So that's been her passion her entire life. And we come to Roseburg. This restaurant comes up to sale. Our family tells us about it. And this restaurant about 9.5 years ago is just going underwater. This person wants to get rid of it completely and everything. And it came up in conversation. And Mom was like, I would have fun just bringing it back to life and then selling it off. And 9.5 years later, we're here. But just some unexpected, I think, just coinciding of the universe that brought us here.
Yeah.
Because there was no way any of us expected to be here.
Yeah. Would you mind elaborating on that piece a little more?
Yeah. So for me, I had just graduated and my major was exercise science.
Exercise science.
Yeah. Like just general health sciences. I was going to go on to work as like maybe in a physical therapy office, get more schooling, things like that. At that time, Mom was a bit ill. Like she had a lot of like heart issues and stuff going on as well. So I had just come home to be with them and stay with Mom and stuff like that and take care of her. And so kind of took a break from everything. What ended up happening was Mom got the restaurant, everything happened, and she was like, I'm just going to build it up. Can you help me with the financial aspects of this, the logistics of all that, menus? I was like, okay, yeah, once we just get this going, I can play around and be done. And year one was tough.
Yeah.
Year one was quite a thing. I mean, just telling, because with Mom, she always wanted to bring home cooking to the restaurant setting. And the person before, it was just all pre-made, all pre-bought things and everything. And for Mom, she grinds her own spices. So she makes her own blends. Just transitioning from that, letting people know that that's what was up and everything was a challenge. And then also like just any first year of business is like a make or break. And I mean, even the first 5 years,
Yeah.
to be honest, if you're running a small business and building your own thing, it's just, so there was nights where we were both like, what are we doing? Because this has been a thing of both Mom and I's kind of, I run the front, she runs the back, basically. What really kind of helped us get going was working with the Blue Zones Project. So this was after our first full year of struggling and figuring things out, because we had no idea how to run a business. Neither of us had. And Google was my best friend that year. Just having a project like that come in where they had resources of advertisement, of getting the word out there that, yes, this is somebody that has taken over. And that's when our news review article came out as well, because we had gotten traction through the Blue Zones Project. People were like, oh, this is new management. This is something different.
So like call them like a small business advisor, sort of like helping your business kind of get to the next level and next step, sort of.
Yeah. And that's what it had kind of started out when they started bringing restaurants into the Blue Zones Project. It was to help them be better at not only offering good, healthy alternatives, but also like bringing that restaurant more success in terms of those. I feel like they need to do more of that now, because recently I haven't seen many more restaurants come in that way. And it helped us so much that I feel like it could do a lot more as well in terms of that, because they kind of helped us market a lot more things that we were already doing. So a lot of our stuff, like our okra, our eggplant, are really healthy dishes. Even like they're more plant-based, but even our like chicken curry, it's just bone broth and chicken with a lot of spices. So a lot of it is healthier than most restaurant food, but we weren't marketing it that way at all. And they really helped us with that.
What do you think is the most common like stereotype or stigma about like Indian cuisine that maybe people maybe like a common misconception, I should say, about like Indian food?
That it's extremely difficult and impossible to do at home. I've gotten a lot of that from people. So if you don't have a setup or kind of basic knowledge of spices, then yes, you will be lost. But for me, I always tell people that you can start as easy as going to a bulk food store like Sherm's or Winco and get just spices in small amounts and just mix them together. Make your own quote unquote curry powder. And you can use that powder in everything. So it's like with any other cooking, like American cooking, you just have your classic spices and like your barbecue seasoning, your black pepper, all that kind of stuff. It's the same with Indian cooking. You just have your classic spices that you use over and over in a dish. And if you have that setup, it's quite easy to make your own food at home. And I think more people should experiment with that.
Yeah,
Good comment.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And is the goal kind of for Shanti's is eventually for you to kind of take over the back and be the running the kitchen?
Yeah, and I've done that before when mom has gone to India. She's been going more and more recently, and she plans to go again this year. But whenever she does that, I always do half days, and I'm the one doing all the cooking and everything. It's just finding a person to also be an accompaniment to what I can do, because it's difficult for me to work the front and do everything in the back and do all of those things, and just finding reliable people.
Yeah.
I think post-COVID has been a challenge of everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. What was that time for you guys during COVID?
Oh boy. I mean, first there was a lot of uncertainty, a lot of craziness, and then it was just a lot of being thankful that we are in a small town, because everybody came out and supported. Like, if they're like, it's okay if you can't seat people inside, yeah, we'll take it to go. Things like that, where if we were in a larger town, we wouldn't have had that support, I feel. And here, so many people were making a point like, yes, I'm visiting my favorite businesses, making sure they stay here. And we had so much love from the community that part was amazing. The whole inflation part post-COVID, the lack of workers post-COVID, that is the negative part of it. But just knowing how much love we have from the community has been great.
That's awesome. Where did the restaurant name Shanti's come from?
So that was just existing. I mean, this building itself has been here, I think, 20 years or something like that. And the restaurant has changed hands many times.
Okay.
Shanti just means peace.
Okay.
Oh.
So we're like, we love that name.
Okay.
And so we just kept it.
Do you have like a most popular dish that gets sold?
Oh, butter chicken, hands down.
Butter chicken.
It's so good. And I always get spicy level 2. And I think you make the same joke every time on the phone. I say I'm too white to go any hotter. She always laughs every time for me. It's really
Well,
nice.
because I mean, if that is the truth, then I am also too white to go any hotter. Because
is it like 5? Is that the
yeah,
spiciest?
like spicy is our true spicy, and it'll burn your mouth.
Okay. Do people go? There are people
Oh yeah, I mean, there's Americans that will go spicy, and I'm like, how are you doing this, sir? Because I cannot.
Are you just like
And-
watching them eat like, oh my God, they're gonna
No,
pass
I mean,
out?
I've learned not to be shocked by what people order anymore and what the types of people order anymore.
Yeah.
The biggest thing you learn in service is just not to judge a book by its cover. Yeah, I mean, whitest guy ever orders the spiciest and is like, can I have some more spicy sauce, please? I'm like, okay,
What
let's
the
go.
heck?
Yeah.
Wow.
How's the butter chicken made?
So we just have our baked chicken breast, and then we cut it into strips and just toss it with tomato and a lot of heavy whipping cream. And then her special butter chicken spice blend that she makes, she grinds things like cinnamon sticks and throws nutmeg in there, garlic, ginger, all of the spices I say under the kitchen sink. And yeah, we just let that go. Each order is made on the spot. So she's doing this process for every single order. She's not just like making the sauce,
Yeah.
keeping it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Cook the
every single
order.
time. Yeah.
Yeah. Is that what
In our
is that your
kitchen.
go?
We have I have a very
Mhm.
clear. Every time I call, I get the same thing. Yes, we get the
You
butter
don't try
chicken.
nothing new?
Oh, we do. Trust me. I've had most of the menu by now. That's why I come for the buffet.
Oh,
The buffet
okay.
is the best way to try all
Oh,
the different
yeah?
things. The buffet always hits. But man, I get the butter chicken. I get the vegetable pakora. I
Paneer
get
pakora.
Paneer pakora. Paneer pakora, by the way,
Yeah.
is just like the best mozzarella sticks you've ever had in your life. They're because just isn't it like it's
Yeah, so paneer is our homemade cheese. We make it in-house. It's essentially just whole milk. We boil the whole milk, curdle it with vinegar and lemon juice, and then press the curds for a few hours under a lot of weight, which is usually 50-pound rice bags. Yeah, that's how
That
we get our
sounds
homemade cheese.
amazing.
It's so good. It's so good. And then of course the naan.
Yes.
The naan is made fresh, I think, every time.
Yes, and we make the dough in-house. A lot of people, they outsource it and they buy dough from large companies, especially in Portland and California, where you have a large Indian population, but we make the dough in-house. When we first started the restaurant, it was not vegan, but now it is vegan because we have adapted to just the needs of everybody here. And a huge request was for vegan bread. And so before we used to add dairy and stuff like that. And now it's just flour, water, yeast, and oil with like cumin seeds and fennel.
Interesting. I mean, that sounds
It's
good.
amazing.
I'm ashamed to say I have not been here and tried the food, but now I'm going to be, I'm going to have to come try.
Yeah, I'll bring you in for a buffet because you're
Yeah.
going to be,
Yeah, the
Absolutely.
buffet is great. I mean, you get so many choices, and she makes it every single day.
Yeah.
She comes in at 9, Monday through Friday.
Is there, with Indian cuisine, like how often is, like recipes changing, or, how often do you guys even change like your menu up, or is there any sort of things like that happen?
So restaurant-wise, not much. I mean, you have your classics and you go with them. There's a lot of people that are creating restaurants with a lot of innovation. We have people that are making Michelin star Indian restaurants, and they're just going so minute and detailed with it. They're just using like nitrogen gas and like just so many cool things. And then you have people that are putting Indian food on pizza, and this is happening in Portland. They have a restaurant
Interesting.
called Curry and Crust, and they put paneer tikka masala butter chicken on pizza
Okay.
and sell it that way. And so you have a lot of innovations. In Indian food in general, a lot of people don't realize that India is just formed of so many like subcultures as well. So you have like Gujarati food, Marathi food, you have Punjabi food, you have North Indian food, which is where we're from, and you have South Indian food, and they're all different.
Really?
And you have so many different flavors in the same country. In terms of us, like one of the biggest changes we made was offering coconut milk substitution. So any of our entrees you can make dairy-free or vegan, or they're all gluten-free.
Mm-hmm.
For the most part. We've, over the years, evolved to cater to a lot of different diets. At home, there's so much like innovation going on. Like you can
Yeah.
play around with so many things. Like I've played around with a lot with that more at home, but in a
Yeah.
restaurant setting, it's a bit different.
Yeah. Did your mom learn to cook from her mom? Is that, yeah.
Yeah, it
Love
was
that.
passed down from her mom, and then her mom before her. She
Yeah.
learned with like grandmas and aunts and
Yeah.
her mom and everybody. So that's where she got her love of cooking from, because not everybody loves to cook, but for her, she was just always enjoying it at a young age.
Yeah. I love to cook. I've been doing last Sundays, I've been trying to make a new meal that I've never cooked before, and trying to, I guess, torture my family with that to see what they taste. But it's been turned out pretty good. I grew up in a home too where my grandmother was. She owned a catering company. So I grew up watching her cook, and she was American, but she was married to somebody from Hungary. So she always tried to cook, Hungarian, Eastern European food. So I kind of grew up with that style of food. And my wife she tries to make those dishes for me too. And I remember the first time she made something called rocket crumply,
Mhm.
which is like sausage, egg, onion, and potato, and can't remember what the sauce is, but I remember the first time I had it after like not having it for 20 years, it was like eating my childhood.
Oh,
It was
that's
like just
amazing.
washed over me. Like,
Aw.
and it was, but that's for me, that's the best thing for food. It's
Yeah.
about food is like, you
The
can
memory.
not eat
Yeah.
something for so long. You take one bite of it, and it's like that whole emotion brings you right back to being 8, 9 years old at a dinner table,
Yeah.
So
No, I feel
that's
that
awesome.
for sure.
Yeah. So are you guys still involved with like Blue Zone Project? And
Yeah,
is
so-
Thrive Umpqua the same as Blue Zone Project, or are they two different?
So the Blue Zones project was more of a nationwide project that attempts to kind of look at different cities and how they can emulate the principles of the Blue Zones, which are places like Okinawa, Japan, where people are living longer, etc.
Yep.
they eventually, once the people are done with this experiment, they can either choose to stop it or continue on as their own entity. And this is what Thrive Umpqua has become. So still Brew Zone's project, but now more local to the community and focused more on the community.
Nice.
Yeah.
I love that.
That's awesome.
But yes, we are still involved. We still
Yeah.
work with them. And on our menu, we have these healthy pick options that are recommended by them as well. So.
Nice. Any advice you would give to, I guess, your younger self?
Don't go into debt for college.
Yeah.
Because I would tell my younger self, do whatever you can, take as much time as you need to pay for college outright, because I'm at the moment not using my degree at all. And I had to pay back so many student loans. And it sets you back so much when your paycheck is not going to yourself, but to these loans and into debt. And becoming debt-free just a couple of years ago, it made me realize how much of a burden has been lifted being debt-free. And I'm like, never again.
Yeah. Good advice.
Great advice.
Yeah.
Nothing restaurant related. I mean, there's so many things like I feel that I've learned through the restaurant that has been taught to me. I was never this open about speaking to people, and just through the restaurant and being in customer service has taught me more. So I feel like so many people, if they're shy or if they have trouble with conversation, they should just go into customer service, because it teaches you to talk with people from all walks of life. So I think that's another one.
Yeah. What would you say is like the most rewarding part of owning a restaurant?
Most rewarding part, just the people. And you get to see both walks of life. You get to see the best of humanity and you get to see the worst of humanity here. And I think just talking to the best has been wonderful, because you get to meet so many people and make so many connections. So that's been one of the most rewarding. And also owning your own business is rewarding as well, in the terms that like, oh, I can be on my phone, nobody cares, or I can like sit down whenever I want to, or I can leave in the middle of the day for lunch. So a lot of people do that, but I think just having a lot more freedom in terms of what you can do, but there's also a negative aspect to that as well.
Yeah. Which leads me to my next question. What would you say is the hardest, or the part that's you struggle with the most of owning
the amount of hours we put in.
Yeah,
the amount of hours, because this is a Saturday, we open at 12, but I usually get in at 9 and start the ovens, start the background stuff, start cleaning up, start organizing, doing prep work. Also, when my day is over, it's not over because, you have to go to Costco, you have to go to Sherm's, you have to source things. And this has become more prominent post-COVID, because before we were just going through U.S. Foods mainly and Sherm's and Farmers Market for fresh produce. But now we've had to source, where before I was sourcing from 1 or 2 places, now I'm sourcing from about 7 or 8 places for things, just because it's saving me so much to shop these different places, versus if I had just sourced from one, I would not be able to operate right now with the amount of inflation we've had.
That's wild.
you need an assistant.
Yeah.
You need somebody to go around and shop for you.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like somebody could make a lot of money doing that with just shopping for restaurants and gathering things. I mean, I guess that's what Instacart is for, but a bit too expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there advice you would give to other restaurants that may be up and starting right now, or maybe even struggling, kind of try to find their footing?
If they're struggling, DoorDash has saved our life, Uber Eats and Grubhub, and just all of the to-go platforms. Because even though they're taking a large percentage from us, so DoorDash takes like 28 from each order.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
It's just like worth it, because you get more business in the door, because there will be days, especially towards the end of the month, where like we could have nobody come in, but we'll have all DoorDash.
Oh, wow.
So that, especially post-COVID, has been huge. And so that's for struggling businesses. But for people starting up, don't be afraid to make your menu flexible. So like if somebody wants something gluten-free or vegan or paleo or whatever, try to be more open to that, because you get a lot of customers drawn that way. And don't give up, because it is difficult starting, for sure.
Don't give up.
Don't give up.
It's great advice.
It's classic advice, but a lot of people take it for granted, the amount that you can achieve by just persisting and constantly pursuing a goal.
Yeah. Do you have any customers over the years that really stuck out to you that you kind of say remember, but like people that may have shared their stories with you, or any customers that kind of stick in your mind that you've run into?
There's been many over the years. One of them is this old man. We always used to call him Baba. It's just like a grandfatherly term in India. He used to always come sit at the same booth. He was from the Lighthouse Bakery Ashram, which is like a place where they have older folk kind of be more self-sufficient and everything. And it's an ashram in the sense where they can grow their own food and be independent. And so he would come down from the ashram and just have his tea and sit there and chat with Dad every week, basically. And he was a constant fixture for a long time before he passed. And we got to know him so well where it was like a member of the family had passed. And then also there's this cutest couple. They're, I want to say 70s, 80s, and they have date night every week. It is the most adorable thing I have ever seen. And their relationship goals, because they're sitting with each other, no phones in sight, and they're just talking to each other like they met each other for the first time. They're like always constantly engaged, and they always, even once the food is finished, they're just talking to each other. And I asked them, what do you guys find to talk about? They're like, we show each other we love each other every day by not assuming that we just know each other because we've been here too long together.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love it.
So it's just, things that stick out to you that way, that is like, that's awesome.
Right.
And I'm glad I was here to see that.
Yeah. Do they order the same thing every time, or they
do.
switch
I
it
can
up?
pretty much guess their order. I can pretty much guess their order as soon as they walk in. I know what they're going to drink. I know what they're going to have. They switch it up a bit once and now and then, but there's a lot of customers I can do with where I'll never remember their name, but I'll remember their order.
That's awesome. You can remember. I'm sure they probably appreciate that more than remembering. Their name.
It is a restaurant, so that's good customer service
Right.
there.
It is,
But
yeah.
Right. Outside of the restaurant, and you're busy with your time here, what are your sort of your hobbies that you do outside the restaurant?
I love Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Okay, Brazilian
Jiu-Jitsu.
Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm going on
Don't
year
piss her
2.
off.
Yeah.
I'm going on year 2, and I wish I had discovered it much, much sooner. But Olga Keith, one of the founders of Dynamic Martial Arts, her and her husband, Sensei Larry Keith, they work together and have created this wonderful environment where you can go and not be judged, basically. Because one of my biggest fears was I've always wanted to try martial arts, but it was the fact that I don't know if I ever could do something like that, where it's like, am I strong enough? Am I flexible enough? I can't even do a forward roll. And fast forward, I'm doing forward rolls. But it's, even though it took me 3 months to be comfortable with that forward roll, nobody judged me. They were like, we've all been there. It's all good. You got this. And everybody was showing me their tips and tricks for certain things. So there was just no judgment, just openness and a beautiful environment that they've created that keeps me going back.
Awesome.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
That's cool. How many days a week do you do that?
I try to go at least 3 times a week. It's usually another one of the things that just kind of lined up where we close at 7:30 and class starts at 7:15. So I can just leave a bit earlier on days that were slower, typically a Tuesday, a Wednesday, sometimes Monday, sometimes Thursday. So I switch whichever one. And another thing that I love about them is that you can go any day. So whenever they're open, you can just show up and be there. That's included. And yeah, they're great.
Awesome. And what is the restaurant hours?
Yeah, we are open from 11 to 7:30 Monday through Fridays. Our buffet goes from 11 to 2. We do take a bit of a break and open back up at 3:30. Saturdays, we open a bit later because we don't do the buffet, and we go 12 to 4 now. We're kind of cutting back our hours until we can find a suitable replacement for Mom, or until we can find a new direction to go in, just because both of us, as much as we love it, we are tired of all the hours. Sometimes we're here from 9 in the morning to 9 at night, because a lot of people don't realize once we close, there's all the cleaning and everything to do.
So your mom's back there by herself making She doesn't have like a sous chef or anything like that?
No, it's all her doing the entrees. I mean, I'll do.
That is pretty
I do all the bread,
impressive.
so
Yeah.
I do all of the tandoor things. All of her staff, they help with the prep work and stuff like that. But the main cooking she does, and she is 66 this year.
That is impressive.
So shout out to Mom and her perseverance. All of the main entrees, everything she does herself. Now I've taken over certain like prep work duties from her, but
That's awesome.
Mhm.
That's amazing. Traveling for yourself, you have places you've been that you've loved or places you want to go that's kind of on the bucket list?
I've been to India, of course, but it's been a long time. I mean, 2008 since I've been back. And I really want to go back again and just explore so many cool places now that I know more, because in 2008, we went for my cousin's wedding and we did some exploring. We went to some temples and religious sites and stuff like that, but I knew nothing about them other than what my mom had told me. And I didn't even think to take a look at that age at the architecture and all the cool stuff that I'm seeing now posted on YouTube and online. And I want to go back there and explore more of that.
Mhm.
And then I also want to hit up all the national parks around here because they sound super cool. And I want to go to Mount Shasta because of all the lore that is there. Yeah, you guys, even though it's not in Oregon, you guys should do a podcast on that because it's wild.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you go back to India and you're the food there, I mean, what's kind of like the difference between the different, is there a difference between the food you prep here and make here than the food that you eat there when you go back to India?
So in India, we don't eat out at all. Like sometimes we will,
Mm-hmm.
but we just eat at home. And the biggest difference I've noticed is in the produce, like how fresh the produce is, how unaltered it is. Like you don't have these like gigantic eggplants, or you don't have these like gigantic carrots. You have these like small ones that are from people's gardens or like from the farmer's market or stuff like that. You don't have a lot of like early picked produce that you have here in stores, which is why I love shopping at Laney's Farm Stand now, because they have amazing produce, things like that, because most grocery stores here, they pick it way too early and the same flavor is not there. So just general veggies and the enhanced flavors of them. And one thing that's sad is that India is losing a lot of that as well because they're becoming more modernized and commercialized as well. So I'm like, no, don't keep the roots.
Yeah.
Why is that kind of happening?
It's growing a lot. So you have these like big cities that are just becoming more westernized. And I feel like because Mom was recently there, nobody was in traditional clothing. Everybody was just wearing jeans and shirts and everything and all that. So it's become so Western. I mean, there's McDonald's everywhere, there's Starbucks, Subways, all that kind of stuff. And I feel like a lot of people are losing that culture and becoming way too much modern. I think there needs to be more of a balance.
Hmm.
But-
Do you have family that lives in India and have come here and ate at the restaurant?
Yeah, we have. They've come here and eaten, and Mom typically just cooks traditional food.
Okay.
And typically the biggest difference is the heavy whipping cream. So at home, you don't use a lot of that at all. It's just the broth. So it's just like the veggie broth or meat eater. If you're a vegetarian, it's just the veggie broth itself. It's no heavy whipping cream added. I mean, there'll be butter or ghee, or olive oil, but not a lot. So a lot more to the basics, I would feel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you guys, are not eating Indian food, do you have like a favorite go-to food that you love to eat?
Oh, so many. I'm a foodie. I
Yeah.
mean, I love my Mexican food. I love Chinese food, Thai food. I love a good burger. I love pizza. we as a family, birthdays, it's just we get pizza.
Yeah.
So
I love the idea of pizza and the Indian food. I mean, that sounds
I would
it sounds like it'd be a good,
I would try it.
good fusion of the
yeah,
two.
if you're ever in Portland or California, they're doing that a lot there in bigger cities, and just look up Indian pizza and go and give it a try. It's fun.
I mean, why not?
Yeah.
Anything going to pizza.
Right? Yeah.
I mean, with our naan, Mom makes pizza back there all the time. We don't sell it, but she makes it.
Do it. Any paranormal or Bigfoot experiences or like weird experiences that you want to share?
Not necessarily paranormal, but I feel like the misinformation that I've been kind of fed that kind of makes me question everything. So like growing up, it was just India is such a primitive culture. Like they're just backwoods, all that kind of stuff. And then growing up and finding out, like, I feel that the primitives were a much more modern civilization than anybody has ever considered. I mean, just look at different temple architectures. There's a temple in India. It's the Kailasa temple with the Ellora caves. And it is the most bizarre piece of architecture you've ever seen because it was carved from top to bottom. It wasn't like people dug out a huge pit and then started from the bottom up. No, they removed many tons of rock and just slowly carved away at it. And these carvings are extremely intricate. I mean, 3D carvings of different epic descriptions. There's like 2 main epics in India, like many main epics, but these 2 are the most famous. And just full-on battle descriptions and epic descriptions in 3D. I sent you an article link where there's pictures of this. And one of the most interesting things is Ravan, he's one of the heroes in this epic. He has multiple hands and he's trying to lift the mountain of the gods with these multiple hands. And you can see these multiple hands carved out in rock.
That is awesome.
And one, if they were so primitive, how did they basically cut these out? And 2, where did all of the tons of that rock go? Because you can't see it anywhere around this temple. Where did all of that go?
I love it.
So that's one. And then another is how disconnected we've become to the earth. Growing up, it's like, go barefoot in a temple, all these kind of things. I'm like, why is that important? It's like important to go barefoot in nature. It was kind of told to me, right? And I just used to think it was the most backward thing, like we should wear shoes, whatever. But now there's a whole science behind that. And people talk about grounding. And it's amazing that, like, anybody know that the earth had a magnetic field and we have one? Like, we're made out of electrical parts. The earth is electrical and the atmosphere is full of positive energy. The earth is negative energy. And so as you're walking about your day, you're picking up so many positive particles, you become imbalanced and you need to ground yourself to the negative energy of the earth, which you do by going barefoot on it or doing some gardening or getting your hands in the soil to rebalance yourself, which a lot of people now think is, in Ayurveda especially, the cause of inflammation in people and that imbalance, because we're more disconnected to the earth than we've ever been, I feel. We wear shoes that are made out of rubber, and rubber does not conduct electricity. We walk on concrete. We have these concrete jungles basically now. Like, most of us spend our day like going from work to home in like a vehicle. We don't walk. And if we are walking, we're wearing these rubber shoes that don't conduct anything. So we don't have any connection to the ground. Yeah. And my personal experience with that is just the effect I've had on my migraines. So migraines, essentially, your brain arteries kind of inflame. So you get this pain. And I started grounding and it really helped. So I have fewer migraines now than I did before when I was grounding. So, I mean, that's just personal experiences that I've gone through that kind of can like make me question the narrative of what we've been told.
Right. Absolutely.
You gotta
And
question it.
we've discussed a lot of that ourselves.
Mhm.
So it's great conversation to have.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, don't
That's
have
awesome.
I know. I feel like it was on par with the podcast because you
Yeah,
guys
very
go
much
through
so.
so many things.
Yeah.
And like, I was never a believer in UFOs. And then,
We turned another one.
yeah.
I'm
No,
telling you
but-
what.
Or like giants or anything like that. But I'm like, anything is possible in this world
Absolutely.
because like we're discovering so many things that, I mean, the saying that there's nothing new under the sun is such a huge saying. And we're just rediscovering so many things that were lost because as humans, we have such short memories.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I love
Absolutely. Well,
it. I love it.
I think it was Carl Sagan that said it would be a waste of space if there's no other life forms out there in the universe.
Right?
I'm sure I didn't get that quote correctly, but it's true.
Yeah.
If you can invite 3 people to a dinner party, who would you invite? Dead or alive, who would you invite?
Well, I definitely want Leonardo da Vinci. I want Isaac Newton. And I want a current modern day guru called Sadhguru. He's been very popular in India and he's really brought like ancient knowledge to the modern world, basically. And just an interview with all of them would be amazing because Da Vinci had some interesting things that he did with architecture and everything. And Sadhguru, or Jaggi Vasudev, he talks a lot about that. And then Isaac Newton as well with just different theories, because a lot of the quantum physics and all of those of like theories of energy frequency were really prevalent in ancient times. You see this in like the ancient, like in Indian Vedas, Sanskrit scriptures. You see all of this, and like there's talk of anus, which are atoms, in like ancient Vedic scriptures. So they had all this knowledge, and it would be cool to put those three in a room together to discuss that, like how ancient it is. Like a lot, I could go into this so much, but a lot of like the Indian epics and the Indian stories, you have just like knowledge of the world and knowledge of this like energy, frequency, vibration stuff going on that people were talking about for a long, long time that has been lost in history.
I love it.
Yeah.
I absolutely love it. That's perfect. Okay, so 2 questions we have to ask everybody. What's your favorite movie?
Oh, bother. I don't watch many movies.
Winnie the Pooh. Oh, bother. I love it.
No, because
Yeah.
I recently haven't had time to watch many different movies and stuff like that. So
That's all right.
I would have to say any old classic movie, because a lot of the modern ones aren't very good. So, I mean, I do love a good Lord of the Rings franchise. I mean,
Whoa. Yes.
because
whoa.
like any franchise that took the time to really go through the literature and get things as accurate as they could, or if they couldn't get it accurate, get it like brought to life as well as Peter Jackson did with the Lord of the Rings movies. That to me is just an amazing feat. And then also, it's not a movie per se, but it's the Ramanand Sagar and his work. It's Indian, but he brings to life different Indian epics and like over 2,000 episodes just presenting this huge Indian epic. But he did really well to it and justice to it, because it's huge. If you ever heard of the Mahabharata or Ramayana, both of those are huge epics that have been passed down through a long, long time, and it's hard to do justice to them because they're so long and there's so much knowledge in them. And he did well with that. So I guess, and this is like 90s shows, so this is like very old.
Very old.
Man, that's so cool. There's so much I don't know about that. Like
Right.
I gotta read those stories and stuff like that. I think I know I'd like them.
Yeah. I mean, the Ramayana, it's a story about a prince who has his princess be kidnapped and he goes to rescue her. So it's like your ancient princess story, but with so many morals, because there's so many backstories to the backstory in this. And same with the Mahabharata. You can't say that one person is the villain. Like growing up, you thought you could. Like when I was younger, I thought I could say like, these are the good guys, these are the bad guys.
Yeah.
But now you found out that like the worst guy in the story, his family was killed off by the supposed good guys earlier on. And that comes out kind of later. But it's just a great story of humanity. I think a lot of people need to talk about these epics more because it's so cool.
I love it. I love it. All right. And now this one here. Do you have a favorite sandwich? And it sounds fun. It's such a goofy American question to ask. What's your favorite sandwich?
I love a classic BLT. And then I'm a millennial, so avocado toast.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Avocado toast is delicious.
We'll edit that one out. We'll just do BLT.
Just
Yeah.
No,
there
I'm
you
just kidding.
go.
I'm
Yeah.
just kidding.
Just remove the millennial
Just
part of
kidding.
that off.
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
No.
Amazing.
Is there anything else you would love
Yeah.
to share about
Mhm.
you, your restaurant, anything
Yeah.
that you want to parting last words?
Just thank you to all of Roseburg and the local community, because you guys have supported us, gotten us through a lot of hard times that not many have faced before. So just thank you to everyone for being always understanding that we make our food on the spot and it takes sometimes a while to do that, but call ahead. And a lot of people do that. They plan their food around, and it's I'm so humbled by that, because it's like people will wait for our food or plan their day around it or say like, I want it at this time. So it's just very humbling, and I'm very thankful for that support.
Awesome. And if you haven't gotten a chance to come and try the food here, it's in the Garden Valley Shopping Center. I don't think we've gotten to that part yet.
That's
but
right. Yeah.
here in Roseburg, it's in Garden Valley Shopping Center. And then what's like a good phone number for the restaurant here?
541-229-0177. And it is not the number for Walt's Towing as they have put on their website.
Oh no.
No, so
You're the
let me show you. I'm going to get up by our register.
I love this so much.
Walt's Towing. For everybody listening, I had just got up, went to our register, pulled up this sign that I have made with Walt's Towing real phone number because I get so many calls to get their people wanting to tow their cars, and we are not it.
Oh my gosh.
Because of this snafu on their website. Or if you Google them, our number comes up. So for everybody, Walt's Towing's number is 541-672-2652.
We're ending on that.
I love it. I love it. Walt's towing right now because I knew something.
Right.
Yeah.
People keep calling asking for Indian food.
Yep.
That is perfect. Well, thank you so much for your time today. Your
Amazing.
sharing your stories. And, we just really appreciate what you do. You know, food is universal. It's absolutely the love language. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate you guys having me on the podcast. I've been a long-time listeners of yours because, you guys make it so awesome. So I think your podcast is wonderful, and I wish you amazing success.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Wow.
Cheers.